there. So what are we looking at?
The idea was that no matter where you're sitting,
We're back.
you can just look
Very
super
back
special.
on. All right. So the time is now 1:58, and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were Kevin Benes, Marie Senek, Deborah Gibson, Sean Jurgens, Pat Murphy, Todd Yersa, John Tramiel, and Eric Lund. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meeting law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, the next agenda item is forensic audit next steps. All right, so I would like to move to direct our legal counsel to investigate into the handling of the CTO grant a little bit further. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Any public comment on that?
What are you referencing?
Just the handling of the CTO grant that was lost. Just trying to figure that out. What
What was
happened?
the time frame?
Fall of 17 through when we lost it in the spring
Yeah,
That's
and 18.
of 18.
Yeah.
Any other? Is that?
Yeah,
That's
what was the amount?
It was $25,000 grant. Any other quick comments?
I'm sorry, was that an ongoing grant, or what do you mean you lost it?
We had to give the money back to the
Oh.
CTO because we failed to
fulfill our
Fulfill our
part of the obligation.
Okay, okay, cool, thanks.
But
And
I think it's important to know that it's not just the 25,000. It's also the next year.
And we were, and that's just standard protocol with the CTO. If you do have to return funds, you do lose your ability to be the primary recipient of a grant for 1 year after. So it'd be 2019. Correct. Any other comment?
And I'm sorry, that's the extent of board comment relative to the audit?
Correct. Correct.
So Sean, you should open this up for public comment before you vote, so that he can come up and state it properly.
Oh, okay. So I guess, next time we'll just have you come up. You're fine.
Did you have any questions with regard?
Did you have any?
Because
any-
you mentioned
Or
board
comments?
comments, so did you have any specific
You can come
questions,
up,
Scott?
Scott Webermeyer, 412 Steel Court, Estes Park, Colorado. No, I'm just curious what the board intends to share as a point of view relative to the outcome of the audit.
You said, you probably saw that was posted earlier, the initial report that came out on
I
the
saw
front.
what Zach or whoever with his fine publication put out. I did
Yeah.
not
So as
see
an
anything beyond that.
As an update on that, as treasurer, yesterday we received from the auditors an update on their initial report. Apparently, after seeing the Trail Gazette article, Elizabeth was able to provide some copies of some of the alleged missing receipts that she had provided earlier, I understand, to Michael. Was that correct? I don't know if I should mention any particular name, but
No,
to who was responsible.
they were supplied to the audit firm.
Yeah, so they were provided to the audit firm. The audit firm updated their information, so in the end, there were only 4 identified missing receipts totaling somewhere in the neighborhood of $280.
Whoa.
So it went down from like $2,300
That was
to
what I said, too.
$200.
So it
Okay,
makes
the
our
audit-
records more complete. We have the
Right.
information that was required. And there are only 4 relatively small missing receipts.
And the audit letter is a public document.
Uh-huh.
Correct.
Yeah, I think
We
it
just
was-
got it yesterday,
It's
so.
up on our-
release, the initial audit letter that was sent you?
The initial one, but not the one you guys got.
So the one we just got it yesterday, it'll be up on the transparency site.
Okay.
I just haven't had time to put it up yet, but it'll be up probably today.
Okay.
It's a supplement, so the original stands, and this is just an addition to it. And the initial audit letter is up on the transparency site as well. I'd be happy. I mean, I have your email. I'll be happy to send you a copy just to make it easy for you as well.
All right, thank you.
And then from that, the only other thing that we thought we'd want to look into more is just how we lost that grant and why. So that's,
Well,
and let's-
that was an audit-driven circumstance.
Yes, that was in the findings there, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think the last piece was that there was at least one significant policy violation, financial policy violation.
With regard to, yeah, okay. With regard, I think you're referring to
Bronco.
the
The-
Bronco
The
tickets.
gifting, yeah.
Yeah, that was the only thing. And I guess I could speak as treasurer. There won't be any further action with regard to any other years at this point, so.
At this point.
At this point or at any point as far as
Or-
I'm concerned.
okay.
But I'm only
So
one,
this one's put to bed,
hopefully.
reasonably so?
This audit, yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you bet. Board always reserves the right to audit anything they want.
Town as well.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments? All right, with that, do I need to repeat my motion?
I think that's a good idea.
That's good, yeah. So then, the motion was to move to instruct our legal counsel to investigate the handling of the CTO grant that we had lost a little further. And we had a second, got our discussion, so I'll go ahead and take your votes.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes 5-0. Moving on to our program review, we have group advertising and marketing program for 2019. I'll have you take that away, Eric.
Thank you. All right, so as I mentioned before in my CEO report, the group marketing effort is an area that we really haven't expanded on very much. It seems like in either the recent or long-term past. There's been a little bit of work done there as far as attending certain trade shows and things like that. But it is a market segment that is, I think, a great opportunity for our organization to attract more business to Estes Park, especially in the off-season. As I mentioned, group business generates about $4 to every $1 of leisure travel. It's usually a pretty significant part of any destination market. So the fact that we haven't really done a lot in this area, I think is a great opportunity for us. So, and there's some good things going on. Separate and apart from what we're doing, there have been some group efforts going on in Estes Park. The town's doing some work on the event center and trying to get that booked. You've got the Ridgeline Hotel and that conference center, which is also being booked. You've got the Stanley Hotel and their group meeting spaces that is being booked. So there actually are quite a few people that are going out to different kinds of group marketing efforts and trying to help bring and attract groups to Estes Park. My feeling is that Visit Estes Park really should be the lead agency on this, because when you really think about it, you're trying to keep a consistent, unified branding message. When you have other entities going out, well, they have their own special interest at heart, and they may not be carrying that unified messaging, and so that starts fracturing the marketing message a bit. And so that's why I think that this is something that we really should be taking on as part of our overall marketing effort. So I did send out in the board packet a sample schedule of different types of events that we should probably be attending. And also that includes marketing in conjunction with some of those different groups for the group marketing. And I also gave you kind of a brief overview of who that target audience would be and just a real brief description of what each of those events are all about. So some of these activities would be, for example, and we've done some of this in the past, is attending, say, a wedding show in Denver, with some of the larger bridal shows, and trying to attract weddings to Estes Park. So, and that's considered destination marketing from a standpoint of the brides or for those shows. But there are other types of shows, for example, focused on meeting planners. So that's really your corporate market, a little bit of international, incentive market. Say meeting planners organize those types of events. And again, and there's typically two different types of trade shows. There's a reverse trade show where you actually make appointments and the meeting planners meet with the destination. So they meet with us, and then what ultimately we're trying to generate is basically RFPs, so requests for proposals from meeting planners. So you might ask, well, what's the measurement of success if you go into this area? And I think that's the answer. So the more RFPs we generate and convert into actual business, then that's very trackable. And you can also track the number of room nights that are generated, and the sales tax revenue that's generated as a result of those groups coming into town. So that's kind of the outcome that we're looking for. Another thing you might want to know is what would the return on investment be if you do that whole marketing effort. And really, we should be looking to try to maintain about a 20-to-1 ROI at least, I think at a minimum. So for every dollar we spend, we should be generating about $20 in tax revenue. Now that would include, general tax revenue, sales tax, as well as the lodging tax. So as an example, if you took this budget, which is about $79,000 or so, that should generate about $1.5 million of overnight revenue, room night revenue, sales tax revenue. So that would be the objective.
Could you tell me what the 79,000 would be made, what costs associated? Okay, there you go. Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
No, it's on the back
Yeah, I gave
page.
you a little spreadsheet so you can see all the different breakdowns.
Thank you.
There you go. So it's a combination of travel, trade shows, marketing, and some production costs. Very small part of that would be production costs.
What about staffing costs?
I didn't include any staffing costs except for travel expenses in there. So just the travel expenses.
How many people would you need?
I think honestly for this first year, I could probably handle most of that effort.
Just by yourself?
And some of the staff. Every now and there are certain shows, the highlighted yellow shows, are where we would actually have some of the staff participate in those shows. So for example, the wedding shows, and we've done this in past years where we've attended a wedding show and 2 or 3 of the staff would actually attend that wedding show and help promote Estes Park. Go ahead.
And the $79,000 is coming from, it is budgeted in our current
Advertising budget.
Advertising budget, okay.
So we looked at that, and I sat with Shannon and with Kevin, and we determined that we had about $100,000 worth of room in there. We just don't need that much this first go around because we're starting into the effort a little bit later in the season for one thing. So we're going to miss some of the shows that otherwise we probably would do. The show schedule-wise typically is heavier in pre-spring and fall. So during the summer, there's like 1 show a month, I think, that we might want to go do, and I think that's in the schedule there. So
From an HR standpoint, are we able to add the cost of, particularly on the ones that would require additional staffing, what the staffing costs would be?
well, it wouldn't be an additional cost because it would be already with the current staff.
Okay.
So there wouldn't be additional cost.
Well, I'm just wondering where we're moving people with assigned areas that they're working on into other assigned areas. So,
Right.
so for example, is it costing us? Because I know we didn't have specifically, gosh, I don't even remember much of anything in the budget for group promotion in the operating plan.
I do not believe it was in the operating plan.
There's a one small mention in the operating plan. However, in the budget, there is no money in the budget allocated currently for group marketing.
So we'd have to reallocate.
Well, there's small. I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. There's small amounts that has already been spent. So the local wedding show, I believe, a wedding show in Fort Collins. Those things are
Because a lot of
budgeted
these
for.
are local, which is, the highlighted ones.
Mhm.
You've got one that is a travel show for consumers in Dallas.
Yeah, and that one we're gonna pull. So we're gonna pull that off probably and replace
Okay.
it with a different show.
All righty.
Just because I think we're not.
That
gonna,
might be
We're
a-
not gonna have time to do that. It's
The others
coming up
are,
too soon.
looks like they're just one day meetings.
Yeah,
And one of
most-
them's actually in Estes Park.
Two of them actually.
Oh, two,
potentially
yeah,
would
the
be in
conference
Estes Park.
center one. Okay. And then the, just, and I don't want to drill down on numbers, but just, I am a little bit when it's $10,000. On the one, exactly is the smart meeting at the
So
Stanley?
that's specifically for corporate and meeting planners. So it's meeting planners basically.
Okay. And they come from all over the country?
They do.
Great.
It's a real good one. So, and I didn't just make up this list myself. So I basically gathered input from like Karen at the event center and shows that she's doing, and talked to the Stanley what they're doing, talked to Ridgeline what they're doing, try to get their input about, hey, which shows do you think you guys are finding to be very successful? What are the best shows? And so that's where this list came from.
Yeah. And it's a market we haven't.
No, we haven't looked into that, and that is definitely something we could. The main thing is kind of straying away from our operating plan a little bit. Is that something that?
Well, there is if you go into the operating plan, there's an objective that specifically states, and I'll quote, explore opportunities to amplify weddings, conferences, corporate retreats, and other group or reunion business.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the
So
operating
it's in the
plan.
plan. So,
Mhm.
all right.
I think it just didn't have a budget attached to it.
Mhm.
No budget.
Specific.
Okay.
Correct. That's
That
It was an
okay.
unbudgeted
Yeah.
plan.
Objective.
It was a one.
It was a one.
It was a one.
Well, very
No
good.
money.
Yeah, and again, I do want to, just from a transparency standpoint, I do think as we move forward and develop that market, you'd want to eventually add some staff to help make this work.
Mm-hmm.
So a typical destination marketing organization would have a director of sales or a manager of sales
Mm-hmm.
who would basically attend the shows, do the reach out calls, do the follow up and all that
Well,
stuff.
and I think if you get a good outcome from the first year, the first attempts, based on your RFP analysis, then you can see where we might want to allocate, because then we can look at it for next year planning.
Yeah, and that was the whole idea, was this is a good way to get into that market without it costing a lot from a staff standpoint or making big commitments. It's pretty easy to shift this and make this part of our overall advertising budget to fit in really well. And so we don't have to add any budget, it's really within budget. It's just repurposing some of that advertising revenue.
I'm just curious, how did you get the 20-to-1 ROI?
That's just from my experience, looking at other DMOs and where they usually are. They're oftentimes 30-to-1. So I tried to be a little conservative since we're just starting the program up, and it does take time to build up momentum. 20-to-1 also, for example, at most shows that means 2 to 3 conversions. So you'd get 2 to 3 groups out of each show, and that would generate about that result.
Comments, questions?
I think this is exactly what we need to be doing. I really like this, so thank you for making that happen.
Yeah, and I will say from stakeholders, I've had a lot of feedback from all different stakeholders, but they really like the idea of us expanding our group marketing efforts. So there's been really positive feedback. I haven't had any negative feedback about that at all.
Is this something that we do need to have a motion on?
You do. So currently the money is allocated towards advertising in different avenues, not towards groups. So there would need to be a motion to approve this program, basically. All you're really doing is putting it on the record so that in third quarter, when we do the reappropriation, I can reference this back that it was a board-approved move of the budget. But we're staying under the advertising line item, which is what makes it a little easier.
And have we had this the required amount of time to make a motion on this, or do we have to wait till next meeting?
No, you're okay to do it,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep.
All right, so anyone want to make a motion on allocating the $79,615 into advertising just groups?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
Any further board discussion? Any public comment on this, Scott?
Just curious whether there's a good sense of what the product and inventory to be able to respond to the RFPs are outside of the usual candidates that you already referenced. Because it's not like this hasn't been discussed in prior years. But to get to that 20-to-1 number, you've got to be able to convert it into something. And the nature of the industry up here doesn't necessarily lend itself well to, or hasn't. Maybe the inventory is better understood at this point in time as far as what one could offer a small, medium, or large group circumstance. Clearly the wedding business taking care of itself up here to a large degree, but moving beyond that into group industry circumstances, I would be curious what the accommodations inventory might be to be able to address the needs of those sort of groups.
Well, the beautiful thing about the group marketing effort is that it's really focused on off-season, not on peak season. So typically, with the exception, like I said, of weddings, obviously they're going to be still during your peak season. But corporate and all the other types of travel that we're gonna be targeting is really more, occurs more during the winter time, more during the fall and spring season.
No, understood.
So there'd be a lot of inventory.
Still, whether those entities would be interested in what Estes Park has to offer as far as accommodations and amenities might be worth, before going out and trying to pitch the deal and finding out that we don't have a product that that's gonna fit the needs of those medium and large size groups.
Yeah, we're not targeting large groups, we're gonna be targeting small and medium-sized groups, so.
Okay,
Yeah, definitely.
thank you much.
Thanks.
Any other comment? Okay, I'll go ahead and take your votes.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. And moving on to minor bylaw update. Wendy?
So I didn't realize this, that we needed to do this until it was too late to get a vote on it today. So this is just putting the current bylaws with a couple of minor tweaks in front of you. We have to update the address on that first section, because it still says our old office address. And then also, when I was looking through it again, in section 201, Board of Directors, it refers to the town board as the town council. And that's not the correct language, so I corrected that to board. That should be all that's in there, that I changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's more just to get it, in front of you and let you know, hey, we need to update a few things.
And if we look through these and see any, we can bring those next meeting as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
so-
if you send those to me, I have to send you an updated red line version 10 days before you vote on it, so that everybody can see any proposed changes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Any comments, questions on that? All right, thanks, Wendy. Okay, I think we're fine. All right, thank you. Moving on to policy development, we have election of board officers. Since we all are here now, I figured it'd be a good time, since we do have to elect them every year.
Can I ask a question before we proceed with that one? Because it's along the same lines. Have we had any more applications?
It's a great question. Do you know how we had?
I think we've received one since the last board meeting. I spent some time talking to Tom Donnelly. What was it, last week?
Is it one since the last meeting, or do we have a total of more than
I think we've got a
that?
total of 3.
Okay,
And we have one town, one county position open, correct?
Yeah.
and we're not privy to those unless the town and the county?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. And so the thought, my discussion with Tom was that we were going to continue to advertise those and wait till we got more to choose from.
Okay. And is the town process of selection going to be
The selection process will be the town and the county doing a interview together.
joint interview, kind of like how this?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's good to know. All
so
right.
we have what we have.
So we have 5. All right. So currently, we have Deborah as the treasurer, me as the chair, and we have open positions of vice chair and secretary. And we need to vote on all 4 positions today. Anybody interested in putting their name in to be chair?
Chair or vice?
Chair.
No.
That's a hard
know-
no.
I have an idea.
Sean,
I
are
nominate
you,
you.
are you okay standing?
I am okay. In the bylaws, I am able to do 2 consecutive, but after that, no. So I am okay with that if no one else wants to. If someone else wants to, by all means.
Deb, are you all right?
I'm
Staying
fine.
treasurer?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Marie, vice chair?
No.
No.
Todd?
Oh,
Pat?
way.
Well, there's
Wait,
one
what's
fabulous.
All right, I'll do mine.
Got straws.
I'll give
Pat,
everything my plate.
secretary?
Should we rock, paper, scissors it?
Secretary.
Come on, I'm taking vice. You can take secretary. Come on.
Secretary, all you have to do is review the minutes and.
Yeah, you just review minutes and you sign off on resolutions, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Todd.
I'll just do
welcome.
this in one big motion. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, so I move to appoint Sean Jurgens to the position of chair, Marisa Nack to the position of vice chair, Pat Murphy to the position of secretary, and Deborah Gibson to the position of treasurer. And a second?
Second.
Any board comment on that?
Yeah, don't you want to be vice also?
I don't think you can.
You can't.
I don't think yeah.
You would have to vote to combine the positions.
I move that we combine the
We have
positions.
to change it in the bylaws.
That's
Yeah,
that's a
that's-
long.
That's
That's not something we can do today.
All right,
Sorry.
Any,
You can push for that at the next meeting.
Okay.
That's
any
the process.
public comment on this? Nope, seeing none, I'll take your votes.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. the
Congratulations,
positions-
all.
Thank you.
It's funny how you're the only one without a position.
I know, and I try to push it
Trust
out.
me.
Funny how that works.
Way more than my share.
Okay, so then, board meeting schedule and location. I know Wendy sent us out a survey.
Did you, it's not on the agenda formally, but what about committees?
So the committees will fall in basically the same for now. As we get going, I know we do need to formally have like a marketing committee.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues, because that was in the,
That is, so we will have to, maybe for next meeting, we need to put a committee
Marketing
appointments.
Committee
And get
appointment.
those going
committees.
again.
mhm,
Okay. So yeah, now that we have everyone's position, we can fill those in.
yeah. I know that was one of Sandy's big things, was getting a marketing committee established, a community marketing group, so.
Correct. All right, so then Wendy had sent us out the survey on day and time of availability. She has results here. What did you find out, Wendy?
Basically that nobody's schedule is the same. The only day that we had at least 4 people say that they were available is the first Tuesdays of the month. After 6, which seems to be the consensus, is 6 or after in the evening works better for pretty much everybody. And then my only thing is that Deb only marked Thursdays for availability.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe that was my best. That was the one, yeah. So Thursdays is not gonna work anyway. So I can move things around.
So it's Tuesday at 6, is that okay with everybody?
First Tuesday at 6.
of the month, that's at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep.
Should
That works for me.
Staff will make
That
it
works
work,
for me.
whatever you guys need.
Our next meeting next week.
That is what that does.
Yes, that is what that does, which was gonna be my next point, is
Okay.
that perhaps we need to push the next meeting, instead of having it the first Tuesday, maybe have it on the second Tuesday.
Well, second Tuesday would be a board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They only be able to, so
They-
the town board.
Oh, yeah.
So I just say we do it, it'll be a quick meeting and then we'll be back on.
You're also not required to have monthly meetings. I checked the IGA and it says regular meetings. There's no definition
Did you
for
check
that.
this with the
So
secretary?
that was unfilled at the time. But that is an option available. You are not required to have monthly meetings.
So
Yeah.
what we, things that need to
Power
be taken
hungry.
care of, and next meeting would be committees and the bylaw edits.
Bylaw.
correct?
Yeah, the bylaw edits, the committee meeting, which means if you guys have any additional edits, I won't be able to get them in before you vote on them, just so you're aware.
Okay.
I'm looking at my notes, hang on. Yeah, so it would just be the committee appointments and the bylaw edits
6
for
o'clock.
right now.
You guys okay with just doing a quick meeting to get that taken care of,
Absolutely.
and then we'll just go be on a regular schedule from then?
Awesome.
All right, so let's just do that then. So I guess we do need to move. So I'd move to approve changing the regular schedule to the Visit Estes Park Board meetings to the first Tuesday of the month, starting at 6 p.m. in the conference room located here at 1230 Big Thompson Avenue. And a
Second.
Okay. Any board comment?
No, I think it's gonna work much better. Thank you.
Any public comment on that? All right. Seeing none, I'll take your votes.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Meetings are now first Tuesday of the month at 6.
I'll send out updated
Invitation.
invites.
Nope,
and
starting in 6
everything.
days.
I'll s-
I'm sorry, March.
Yeah, sorry. I'll send out an
Keep
updated
that
meeting
together.
invitation to everybody so it's on your calendars, and I will also send out a packet deadline meeting so that you have that on your calendar, so you know when I need it material by.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right, so moving on to the reserve fund investment change. Kevin, I'll have you take this over.
I think I can do this one pretty quick because I think this is about the fourth time we've talked about it, but we are ready to go. All of the details are lined out here. The Bank of Colorado, the big holdup was that I wanted a provision, and I'll read that provision in place because we did get it. In the event of an unforeseen community catastrophe requiring the access to these funds, the Bank of Colorado has agreed to waive the early withdrawal fee, which is normally 3 months of interest. With that provision, there is no downside to doing this, except that Visit Estes Park will receive more interest income with the reserves that we set aside. Other than that, this is all government approved, government CDs, everything's clear across the board. I'm ready to go with the motion.
Seems like a no-brainer for me, so. Anyone want to move?
Motion approved.
One second.
Any board comment? Public comment on this?
What is the interest rate?
We have rotating CDs from 0.35% to 0.6%. Currently, we're in a money market getting 0.1%.
Any other comment?
Just that these accounts are heavily insured compared with, say, a traditional, if you were to go out and get a CD. So people might think, gee, I can get a better rate, but it's not as insured the way it needs to be for our organization. So that's important.
Go ahead and take your votes then.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes. On consent agenda, we just have the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, January 16th, 2019. I move to approve the minutes from January 16th, 2019.
Second.
Any comment on that? Any public comment? Okay, I'll take your votes.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, minutes have been approved. Any board comments today? Actually, one. Bank of Colorado and Bank of Estes, we need everybody to sign the signature cards. However, we might have to wait because titles are going to change.
We put everybody on.
Just
So
everybody's
it's-
on. They don't
Everybody's
have to
on.
have it. Okay. Well then, cool. If you guys can just get down there and they have them at both banks.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it's the Bank of Estes location right next to Town Hall,
Mhm.
and it's the Bank of Colorado location right by True Value. And it takes like 5 minutes, you just have to bring an ID.
Bank of Colorado, we're under local marketing district, not this park. That's one thing that
Yeah.
first time I went in there, they were looking at.
Actually, they found it for me.
They found it?
And I use Visit Estes Park.
Very good.
Yeah.
Never mind.
That is our legal name, by the way.
It's true.
Estes Park Local Marketing District. So they actually all are that way. Both Bank of Colorado and Bank
They
of Estes are
humored
that.
me.
Yeah.
All right. So no more comment, then meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll show you something.
Charter meeting.
Hmm?
Take one of them.
So we just go that,